knowledge in all that you do, Father. Protect their families and just be with them. We give you tonight. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. You join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Holbert.
Here.
Ibrahim.
Here.
Sword.
Here.
Allman. Here. Caligiuri.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Hermsen.
Here.
Okay. First item up is the opportunity for community comments. This item is reserved to receive comments from the community for concerns whether or not they're included in the current agenda. The community is encouraged to speak before the mayor and city council, asked to keep statements brief, time limited to no more than 3 minutes. Any questions are to be asked of the city staff, the council members, or the mayor prior to speaking to the full council, so concerns can be properly researched and perhaps answered away from the meeting. Comments are to be directed to the mayor and city council only. For those wishing to provide comment during the meeting, there's a yellow slip that's provided at the podium before the meeting. I'll call your name to step forward for public comment. And finally, to ensure a productive meeting and that all voices can be heard, we do ask that any side conversations be kept to a minimum. Thank you for helping us maintain a quiet atmosphere so everyone in the meeting can follow the discussion. And so I have a number of slips here. The first one is Kijun De Young. Did I pronounce that correctly?
It's Kijana De Young.
Okay.
I've heard of this before, so please bear with me here. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. So this is directed to the new tax raise that's going to go to the road department. And just to make sure that I understand it correctly, I was here tonight to hear more on that topic. But a few things that I have some questions and concerns on would be, I see that you guys are asking for this raise with a set schedule of projects on which this would go to. I didn't see any schedule on what would be done first, second, and so on, how much each project would cost, and how it would be fixed. I didn't really see a time frame, and the way that I understand it right now is we're just asking for this tax raise to help allow to get these projects done. And I also saw that this isn't going to eliminate the borrowing aspect for the city to get these projects done. So I was a little concerned on that, as if we're giving more money as a citizen to go to these projects, but we're still going to have to be borrowing money to get these projects completed. So I was wondering if maybe it wasn't, maybe a little bit deeper dive into where we're directing those extra funds to, on if we could eliminate some of the borrowing to get some of these projects completed. The other one is we're asking to pass this tax raise, and it's right before the new law goes into effect July 1st of 2027. And with that law, it places a limit on how quickly a city can regulate property taxes revenue and how they can grow, and places limits on how many property taxes levies and a maximum set rate by law. So I was a little concerned on seeing this max rate asked for at this time, right before we roll around next year. It's like, okay, we have a max rate on this. I was wondering where that kind of stood in your guys' judgment as well. And the last concern that I have is I'm afraid how this is going to affect the housing in Oskaloosa right now. Right now, it's really hard for people to buy homes, and rent is constantly raising. And we're working hard as a city to improve that, as you can see from around town. But as the smaller landlords that own these other houses and stuff that don't have them paid off or haven't owned them for 20 years to get them paid off, right, we're battling insurance and property taxes. That's the biggest two concerns that we're having as property owners. The banks are only allowing us to go out 10, 15 years anymore. You can't take a 30-year mortgage out. So what that entails, your rent has to be able to cover all those, but you also have to be able to have a cushion fund in the background when things break to keep them, up to date and appropriate housing for the citizens. And so, as we can say, if we raise property taxes even more, that's going to trickle down to the tenants. As much as we hate to say, it just does, right? And so, just a quick solution that I think that, and it may not be a solution, right, but an idea that I had that might help solve this issue and not do a direct raise, or maybe not quite as much of a raise on all the citizens, is possibly put a pause on the tax abatements that we've been doing and allowing in Mahasset County. We have the state abatements that you can apply for, but then the Mahasset County tax abatements on property that you can do on the new residential builds, additions, major renovations, and the ones that the commercial and industrial get as well. So I'm not saying eliminate those, but possibly
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Okay, next up, Stacy Wright.
Hi there, I'm Stacy Wright. I own Salon 212 at 311 South 7th Street. We have a bit of a parking issue outside of the salon. Probably 10 years ago, they made it parallel parking, which was great. No signs have ever been hung for parallel. My lovely neighbors to the south of me have decided that that is their public property to do as they want and put trash there and park there inevitably for however long they want. And it has been quite a nuisance for a very long time. I've asked for decades, not decades, I've asked for a decade, could we just get a sign hung for 3-hour parking? In the past, I've worked with Chief Scott with different things with that neighbor. He's been great. I have called the nuisance department once a week for a month for a trailer that was parked out there full of garbage. It smells like death most days of the week out there if you ever come. It is a nuisance to my business. I understand it's city parking, but I own a business there. The homeowner herself has been pretty respectful, but she always gets people that stay with her and they don't leave, and then they don't move their vehicles. Again, I called once a week. I got no return calls ever, so I don't know who's in charge of the nuisance operations. The only call I got back was whoever was in charge was out of town, and I said, what can I do to help? And they said, just keep calling. That is not a resolution. We need a resolution. Then Officer Chief Ben came in, and from day one, when he stopped to ask me questions, he handled things. It was towed, and he has been there enforcing things. It's been great. The day that it was towed, the next day they parked all of their vehicles there, even intruding the front door of my business. So I'm simply asking for a 3-hour parking sign just to make sure that the business can flow. There's not a lot of loveliness in that neighborhood. I feel like I have tried to make my business pretty for the neighborhood. So if we could just get something to respect the fact that I have handicapped clients that come in that deserve during business hours to respectfully, safely get into my building, that's all I really want. If we want to get into other topics with the neighbors themselves, we can do that in a different day. That's probably a whole other topic. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Alicia Helm.
Good evening. I'm here to ask you a simple question. How much longer are we going to keep chasing a project that has divided our communities for more than a decade? The SCRAA was created with a promise of economic growth and regional opportunity. But today, after years of controversy, lawsuits, public meetings, rising costs, and countless disagreements, there is still no airport. Instead, there is uncertainty, frustration, and a community that is past ready to move on. At some point, leadership means recognizing when an idea has run its course. Oskaloosa has real needs. Our residents care about safe streets, quality housing, strong public safety, thriving local businesses, and keeping our taxes under control. Those are the issues that affect families every single day. Instead, we've spent years talking about an airport that has never gotten off the ground and has faced heavy opposition. And while we've debated this project, farming families have lived under a cloud of uncertainty. Generations who have worked the same land have wondered if they would lose their ability to pass it down to the next generation. That's not how government should treat its citizens. Our farmland is more than dirt. It feeds our families, it supports our economy, it represents generations of hard work and sacrifice. Once it's covered in concrete, we do not get it back. We also have to ask ourselves whether this project still makes sense. Oskaloosa has an airport. Pell already has an airport. If improvements are needed, let's improve what we already have instead of pouring more time, money, and energy into a project that continues to stall and lack broad public support. This isn't about being against aviation. It's about being responsible government that listens to its citizens. It's about respecting taxpayers. It's about respecting private property. It's about respecting the people who elected you to make these decisions. The longer this agency continues to exist without a clear path forward, the more uncertainty it creates. It continues to consume public resources while producing little progress. Every year we spend talking about yesterday's project is another year we're not focusing on tomorrow's opportunities. Imagine what we could accomplish if we redirected that energy toward growing local businesses, supporting entrepreneurs, attracting employers, repairing infrastructure, improving quality of life, and strengthening the community we already have. Those investments would benefit everyone, not just the proposal that has struggled to become reality. Tonight, I ask our leaders to have the courage to acknowledge what so many citizens already know. It is past time to move on. It is time to stop dividing our community. It is time to protect our farmland. It is time to respect property owners. And it is time to focus on the future of Oskaloosa instead of the past. Let's put this project behind us to begin working together on ideas that unite our community instead of dividing it.
Nick Ryan.
Good evening, everybody. So you could probably imagine why I'm here. It does look like the straw is possibly coming to the end of its life. Goodness. So once again, the Oskaloosa has the opportunity to do the right thing. It had this opportunity back in 2005 when the public voted on it the first time, when the public voted on it the second time, when the city lost its lawsuit that filed against Mahaska County at the Supreme Court, where one of the justices opined that 2080 agreement for this project was the equivalent of rendering the citizens of Mahaska County permanent passengers aboard the RMS Titanic, unable to steer its ship around the iceberg. But here we are, the city has the opportunity to do the right thing. The right thing is to dissolve the SCRAA, is to sell the land as quickly as possible. I don't know why we need 2 or 3 years to do that. I'm pretty sure that there are buyers out there that will be chomping at the bit and probably willing to pay a pretty hefty price for that ground. And I think that needs to get done as soon as possible so that we can put this issue behind us once and for all. And as we move forward, I think it would do the city very well to, one, take steps to repair the relationship between the city and rural residents of Mahaska County. The landowners that have been affected by this for the last 20 years are definitely owed an apology. I think as offers and bids or whatever to buy that land are being considered, I think we should reject offers from people who have been trying to force this project down the throats of the residents of Mahaska County. But long story short, do the right thing. Let's dissolve this thing. Let's nail the coffin shut on this once and for all and move on. Thank you.
Next item up is the consent agenda. These are items that are all routine in nature. They'll be voted on by a single vote. There's a number of items here. They number through item P. I did want to bring attention to a number of them, though. Item D is a motion appointing Angela Foster to the Arts and Culture Commission. Item E, Jen O'Lear to the Arts and Culture Commission. Item F, Kelsey Veldhuisen to the Arts and Culture Commission. Item G, Tara Rosenboom to the Arts and Culture Commission. We have item H, reappointing Mark Strasser to the Water Board of Trustees. Item I is resolution scheduling a hearing on the sale of an alley. This has to do with confirming an erroneous legal description that was done prior. That hearing is on the 20th of July. Item K is a resolution doing a core downtown improvement grant to 109 High Avenue West. That's for $18,900. Another grant under the core program at 113 High Avenue West for $8,800. Item M is a core downtown improvement grant. That's to 114 North First Street. That's $18,000. Item N, which is another core downtown improvement grant. That one's for $24,000, 122 North Market Street. And item O, this is a downtown grant located at 217 First Avenue East. Likewise, it's a core downtown grant. Do we have a motion of support for the consent agenda?
Moved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Sword,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Pellegeri,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Next up is the announcement of vacancies we have on various boards and commissions. First is the Airport Commission with a vacancy for a term ending in December of 28. The Building Code Board of Appeals, there's a vacancy for an ex officio member. The Planning and Zoning Commission has one vacancy for a term ending in April of 2027 and one vacancy for a term ending in April of 2030. The Arts and Culture Commission, 9 vacancies before the appointments that were made just recently. So 3 of them were term ending December 31st, 2026, 3 for terms in 2027, and 3 for a term ending in December of 2028. The Library Board of Trustees, we had 1 vacancy for a term ending in June of 2029. And finally, Historic Preservation Commission, there's a vacancy for a term ending in December of 2028. Getting into the regular agenda, first up is the presentation from Stephen Memorial Animal Shelter. Deb, you're up.
Well, I'm not alone. This is Nicole Holmes, and I think many of you know her as the Animal Control Officer, but she was recently promoted to the Operations Manager at the Animal Shelter. But we just wanted to come today and share with you some of the things we're proud of, some of the things that have happened at the shelter this year. I don't know if you're aware, but the animal shelter has existed for 50 years. So that we're celebrating an anniversary today. Well, actually, we celebrated it in May. But we started out as a dog pound with an actual, dog catcher, like you see in the movies. And the animals were taken in what was then basically some hog shed buildings that were put up and animals taken there. And if they weren't claimed, they were most often euthanized. Today, I think Nicole can attest to the fact that for 2 years or 3 years that we have been honored with being a no-kill shelter in Oskaloosa. We're very proud of that. And Stephen Memorial Animal Shelter, in our new facility, we moved there late 2018 and started actually in 2019 with operating the way we do now, which means that we do animal control, we do pet adoptions, we do community education, we do a low-cost spay and neuter clinic, and we have a pet food pantry. The pet food pantry has helped us tremendously. We get grants, we pay for food and cat litter and things like that. Oftentimes, this keeps an animal with their family. They don't have to surrender the animal to us because we're helping them keep it at home. We rely very heavily on volunteers, I'm sure you know. Dog walking, cat cuddling, and fundraising, for sure, among most of the things that they do. But they do many other things. So as I elaborated, Nicole McCombs has been moved to our operations manager. She does have an assistant manager now, which there wasn't one in place before. So Isabel Harvey was moved into that position. We have expanded the board, or we have added 4 new board members. Mike Gipple, which many of you know, Valen McReynolds, Josie Dickerson, Nathan Johnson. Each of them was recruited for very specific reasons. Mike Gipple has many talents, but he will be crucial moving forward with the facilities management and making recommendations. Currently, he's helping us with our security cameras and working on that project. Valen McReynolds and Josie Dickerson both come with marketing, fundraising, and grant backgrounds, which will help us moving forward. And Nathan Johnson, being a member of the police force, he's just truly an incredible person, number one, and he helps us, with many things. He comes and does a lot of publicity for us too. When I came in September, when the director resigned, the budget had projected that there would be a $57,000 deficit by today. We're very proud to let you know that currently, with not all the bills in from June, but we're going to come in with a balanced budget.
Nice.
And it came with a lot of hard work, and it's going to continue to come with a lot of hard work. But I listed some things here that helped us with that. We did $56,680 in fundraising this year.
That's fantastic.
We did $21,000 in grants. And these are grants that were not grants for food or other things. Do all of you utilize the Popkin shed?
Yeah.
Yay! Because we did $6,337 in Popkin redemption. I think that helps the community too, keeps the Popkins out of the roads. But it also has become a definite revenue stream. We asked the Golden Goose for 2 more Popkin sheds, one for Oskaloosa, which has now been set by the bowling alley. And then we asked for a second pumpkin shed. But as I met with the municipalities, New Sharon said, well, we take pumpkins for a prom with our shed, and Eddyville really didn't want to be responsible, maybe a liability. Fremont, anyway, long story short, we decided that probably we would take the money with Golden Goose Blessing, and we would get a travel trailer, like an enclosed trailer like the contractors use, and we would just take it one day a month to each community, and we'll see how well that works.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So we're hoping that the $6,000 pop can revenue from this year might turn into $20,000 next year. And then we actually got $4,476 in new monthly donors. So the last thing I want to talk to you about, because if you know me, you know I kind of overshare sometimes, but the fundraising that we will do this year will all be centered around asking you if you would scan a barcode and make $5 a month contribution to the shelter, or $10 a month, or whatever you think you could offer. But that will be our fundraising for this year. So I think you all have some flyers that Nicole has provided you. I think it's very interesting how this is such a nice presentation, and she has a lot of numbers for you to look at.
Yeah.
So we had 488 animals through our shelter. We had 101 of those be dogs, 233 of those were cats. In total for the year, we've had 209 adoptions. 141 of those were cats. For whatever reason, more people want cats than dogs, so we're not moving our dogs as much. We do utilize other shelters in our area, so we have transferred, traded dogs with other facilities. A lot with Centerville here lately. What dogs that we don't think we can get adopted, we swap, and so far one of our dogs that we swapped has already been adopted. So that's great news. We did have 8 miscellaneous animals. Those were 2 goats and chickens.
Maybe your chickens got out.
Chickens are
Do
great.
better.
So animal control wise, we did deem 13 dogs dangerous, and we had 11 dog bites. Our dog bites have went down tremendously, but there are still a problem. The reason there are 13 dogs that were deemed dangerous and only 11 dog bites is because we are very lucky that we don't have to have the dog bite to deem that dog dangerous. If it is a potential threat to our public, we can go ahead and deem it. Not a lot of places have that actually, so I'm very grateful for that. We picked up 21 strays. That's myself. So the stray animals that were brought in, they're through public and through me, through animal control. So I picked up 21, just myself. We did 31 leash laws. So a stray animal is an animal with no identification. So no tags, no collar, no nothing. A leash law is a dog that has those, just running at large. We did 12 neglect/welfare checks. So they were either animals left in cars, we've had dogs left in houses that we've had to go in and get when it's really hot and no air in there. So those are the types of things that so far we have done with animal control. Our community programs, we have been doing a low-cost visitor clinic. It has been great for our community, for the less fortunate in our community. During that time, we do offer low-cost microchip implants, and a lot of people have actually utilized that. So we've had 34 microchips implanted, so 34 more animals can get back home quickly. Most of them were cats, 19 were cats, 15 were dogs. Part of that is also when we do our spay neuter clinic, we can do up to 50 cats at a time. So in that one day, we're doing 50 cats, and they're on their way. When we do dogs, we can only do about 18, just because we can't hold as many in the vet clinic. So far this year, we did 367 animals through our low-cost spay neuter clinic. That is only for Mahaska County residents. We do not open it up outside. It is just for Mahaska County. We did 321 cats and 46 dogs. So for Biscuits Covered, that's our pet food pantry. We did 3,026 pounds of food for the year that we have given out to our community. Most of the people that come through are for dogs. As you can see, it was over 2,000 pounds of food. And then lastly, I have just what we took in by intake for jurisdiction. That's just stray intake / leash law. We took 188 animals in from the city of Oskaloosa.
I like that you did. I really like that you did that and broke that down, because we always ask what portion is ours, and that pretty much shows it. I had a question about, you were talking about how many animals, and I've been in that building. Where do you put them all?
So we can hold up to 31 dogs, and we can hold about 85 cats.
Oh.
It depends. You can have mom with babes a little bit longer, but once they get old enough, you have to separate them out. So it's very strategic planning, and hoping that we don't have a lot of kittens.
Okay. Other questions, comments?
One final thing from me, please, is that we would welcome any work sessions that you might want to offer, ways we could work together, for the benefit of the shelter. So if you would like to take a deeper look into the shelter, a deeper dive, we'd welcome that.
One more thing, Nicole. I think the pop can thing's going to be. I know we do the trash, the plastic bags, and masks. Do you guys advertise that on your Facebook page that you have the pop can? Okay.
Mm-hmm. We do, once we get the other pop can shed, we're waiting for the door mechanism. Once that is in, we'll post it that it's ready to go.
I think you'll have good success with that. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for the work you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Makes a difference. Thank you.
Just one question. The city council passed an ordinance, the alternate enforcement action, which makes it easier to find people. Instead of going through the whole court system, it takes a lot longer. And then that, you know what I'm talking about. Has that made a difference for you?
Could you come to the microphone again?
Yeah, could you speak to that, please?
Yes, so we actually, now, if people have their dog at large, we can use it as, hey, if you don't, I'll be honest, it hasn't been a lot of warnings for certain ones, because our dogs are kind of being unruly. Not quite to where we can deem them dangerous, but something needs to be done. So I've been working with the police department, and we have been giving out citations for dogs at large.
It makes me wonder, you mentioned that there's there's less bites now, if that had an impact from that ordinance change.
I would think so, yes. They're not running around, they're not causing a ruckus, so less bites.
Right.
We also do chickens, so if your chickens are running at large, you will get fined for your chickens at large. / goats.
Wow.
I think we did do one of those.
That reminds me, do you still have chickens that you have at the facility then?
We don't, as of right now,
Okay.
we don't have
No
any
chickens.
chickens. They've all went to their homes.
Sorry.
They got to go back to their.
Yeah, so we had, at one time, we had 8 chickens and a turkey. And that
turkey.
we had, that was scary, think of that turkey. But we also then had 2 goats
Yeah.
running down by Edmondson.
So no eggs for you.
I would think it wouldn't be hard to give the chickens away. And
Everybody wanted the chickens.
Everybody wanted the
They were not hard to bring home.
Okay. Thank you very much. Item B, this is a presentation from the Mahaska Chamber Development Group. Deanne?
Deanne Grove, President of the Mahaska Chamber. Much like animal shelter, we appreciate your support year after year, and just wanted to give kind of an update, and hope to do this quarterly. So I tried to pick specific things. Of course, the community sees the events we do. Friday After 5 is finished, Art on the Square, Sweet Corn Saturday coming up. Some of the behind-the-scenes things directly related to economic development maybe are a little bit more, people are unsure of. So I wanted to pick things specifically from your strategic plan, that you have mentioned maybe the chamber's working on. So just we're on the same page and connecting the dots. So the first one, you guys had in your plan, land the first business in the certified site. So things that we are working specifically on. We did 13 business retention and expansion visits in the first quarter. So back in the day, that was called synchronous visits. Those were larger companies that we do these visits with based on utility usage, actually. So 13 of those visits, and a report will actually be coming out. It's going to go to our business development committee this week, and then I'll share that with council as well, but you will be able to see the results of those visits that we did the first quarter. We've had conversations with commercial real estate companies when we talk about landing a business. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be one from a different state or metro area. It could be a local grown company here that's looking for more ground. So working with real estate agents on what is available here, working with the Greater Des Moines Partnership, updating the lowest record. So Location One Information Systems is a system where all the commercial property and real estate land goes on there. So we're updating those maps so that as the Southeast Connector Road is getting done, it is making sure that those are up to date as developers are looking at those 500 acres. Also, and then we will also work with our website host is Neapolitan Labs, getting our certified site page up to date. So those maps will then be updated on our website, and also working with the fire department, got a drone, hoping to get some new footage of those acres, again, showing that the road is going through. So having some new video footage on there. So far we've responded to 5 state leads. That is a little bit down, I feel like, from last year. Yeah, halfway through the year already. I want to say last year we ended up with 21 that we responded to. So halfway through the year and we only have 5. And those can come from IEDA or the Greater Des Moines Partnership. But that's what we've submitted so far. And then we did do a training with Mid-American, IEDA, and the Des Moines Partnership in May as well, just for our board and Business Development Committee. As far as the second bullet there with your strategic plan, assist with the recertification of a certified site. So I did reach out to IEDA. That's who we work with to get recertified. So it's a 5-year certification. We got certified in July of 2023. So that means 2028. But then we had to be thinking, it takes a long time to get certified. So we were working on that probably 2 to 3 years before 2023, before we got actually, broke the ground and cut the ribbon for that. So the recertification process, again, page 2, but just making sure that, we're all budgeting for that, working with city and county. When we did the first round of it, we were working with McClure Engineering, in addition with the rail study that we were doing and the Southeast Connector Road and the mode study. So there's a lot of different moving pieces and parts. So yes, we'll definitely need to work as a team if we want to look at recertification there in 2028. And that process will probably start early next year, even maybe the fall of this year. As far as rail goes, assist in the development of a transload site. That was in your strategic plan. Mike Fisher, school superintendent, if you didn't know, he loves trains and rail. So he said he would head that committee for me. So he is leading that committee. We met in the end of May. Since then, we have met with the Burlington Junction Railway. I gave a site tour to them on June 10, and then we had a large group meeting with the Union Pacific on June 19. We filled out the questionnaire again. So again, we did the rail study in 2024, and then just got updated our numbers with the usage out in the industrial park here last week. So the new questionnaire has been submitted to UP. So hopefully we'll get some traction there, even if it's a small transload site. In the rail study, we looked at several different lines, maybe creating a transload area, but we thought we could even make it small scale and then move up to bigger if we needed to. Revolving loan fund application, we had one this first quarter. Knoxville Manufacturing upgraded some natural gas. So worked with them, and we actually have one pending application right now. The mode study continues. We did some different funding opportunities, so collected letters of support from our businesses to submit for those funds. Housing, we worked with the city of Oskaloosa, of course, to do the groundbreaking with Hubble Realty, so that was exciting. And then Sean Christ is helping us get a housing committee up and going so that we can continue to fill the gaps with the housing needs here in the community. And then when it comes to Main Street, again, several different initiatives. They're doing cleanup the second Monday of every month, May through October. They had 4 applications for the Open for Business grant, and of course those applications had to be in the Main Street district, and then one got submitted to go to the state level. Challenge grant applications also opening up soon and will be done in the fall. We had the community input session in February, had a great turnout with the survey results. I know Angie came and presented on that earlier. Did the transformational strategies, that's on page 3, so again, that's kind of their strategic goals going forward. They're continuing working on the OSKI app. We've done over 30 diplomat ribbon cuttings and celebrations so far this year. And then achieved the Main Street accreditation for 2026, so just reaffirming Oskaloosa's commitment to downtown. Any questions? It doesn't have to be on anything. This is what we picked out for this quarter.
Well, I've got one. You mentioned in there the number of leads that we've gotten 5 of them from the state. There were 21 last year. Is there a kind of a learning process that goes on that as application or questionnaires were coming to Oskaloosa that maybe the folks in Des Moines were saying, okay, this hasn't worked out well in the past. We won't even bother sending this one. So we'll focus on the ones that are more achievable.
So when Brian Carroll came down, he's with the Greater Des Moines Partnership. When he came in May to do our BRE visits, he said their applications are down, leads are down statewide. So, we're submitting basically for anything. A lot of times there are ones that say, want to be close to the metro area within, so many miles or, want rail. But we're really just submitting for all of them at this point because that's kind of step one, just to, apply and get used to what that process looks like. And then once you make the second cut, then, you'll have more to fill out as it goes. So I think just statewide, leads are just down.
I appreciate that you're looking into the reapplication or the renewal of the certified site, having been heavily involved in the first round. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of work, and the training thing we just did in the study session, a comment was made about government moves slow, and slow for a reason. Make sure you're making good decisions and everything, but sometimes it moves extra slow, so thank you for getting a head start on that.
We know it's going to take time. Ours is a little bit unique with, 6, 7 different landowners. So, making sure we have to go back to those landowners, see if they want to participate again, update title opinion. So it is going to take some time. And I think the other unique challenge is we didn't have a lot of costs with the last one just because we had so many other projects going on. So that's kind of the unknown too, is well, how much should we be budgeting going forward? So we're really going to have to look at that, this fall. So.
Comments from council?
Thank you for the presentation and the work.
Well done. Item C. Now, this is a resolution approving the final plan, specification, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Burlington Road reconstruction project. Garden and Associates prepared the plans and specs for Burlington Road reconstruction. It allows staff to proceed with scheduling a public hearing on the plans and specs. So the scope of the work, the removal of the existing surface of Burlington Road from South 15th Street to South 17th Street and South 15th Street from Burlington Road to 9th Avenue East. It replaces the water main in the same locations, also 16th Street from Burlington Road to 9th Avenue East, construction of new storm sewer infrastructure in the area, construction of a 20-foot wide PCC roadway, addition of sidewalk along the east side of South 15th Street. Work includes, but it's not limited to, 4,045 square yards of PCC pavement, 422 square yards of PCC driveways, 124 square yards of PCC sidewalk, 936 linear feet of storm sewer main, 12 storm sewer structures, surfacing removals, subgrade preparation, sub-base, site cleanup, and finally surface restoration. Estimate from the engineer, $772,455 for Division 1 of the project. That's associated with PCC and storm sewer construction, and then an additional $312,575. That's for Division 2, which has to do with the water main improvements, and that would be picked up by the Oskaloosa Water Department. So if awarded, the notice to proceed would be issued around August 3rd, and work under the proposed contract would be completed by November 20 of 2026. This does require a public hearing. I'll open it at this time if anyone would care to speak. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion of support for this resolution?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Sword?
Yes.
Almond?
Yes.
Caligiuri?
Yes.
Drost?
Yes.
Hermson?
Yes.
Holmberg?
Yes.
Ibrahim?
Yes. Okay, that passes. Item D. This is to consider the resolution awarding the contract for the Burlington Road reconstruction. So it was advertised, bids let. The low bid was the total amount of $893,853, which comes in $191,147, or 17.6% below the engineer's estimate. And so of that amount, the City of Oskaloosa, Division 1, $636,888. And the Oskaloosa Municipal Water Department on Division 2, that comes in at $296,965. Engineering consultant for the project, Garden & Associates, reviewed the bids, recommends the award of contract to Drish. If awarded, as mentioned before, the notice to proceed would be issued on August 3rd, and we should have her wrapped up by November 20th of 2026. This motion would also authorize $65,000 as a project contingency for unforeseen circumstances. That would be administered by a city manager. Staff is recommending it. Do we have a motion of support?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this? Happy to see these things come in below a Hester.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Almond.
Yes.
Caligiuri.
Yes.
Drost.
Yes.
Hermson.
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes.
Ibrahim.
Yes.
Sword.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item E. This is to consider an ordinance to amend Chapter 10.48 having to do with parking regulations and Chapter 10.52, especially the 3-hour central business parking of the Oskaloosa Municipal Code. This has to do with 3-hour parking restriction along South 7th Street. Staff is recommending an ordinance that amends Chapter 10.48 and Chapter 10.52. The primary purpose of the ordinance is to add a 3-hour parking restriction to the right-of-way parking adjacent to 311 South 7th Street. Residents frequently park vehicles in the area for long periods of time, making it unavailable to businesses in the area. Under the code as written, 3-hour parking zones are defined separately from other parking regulations in Chapter 10.52. The chapter specifies locations within the central business district with this restricted parking, but the municipal code doesn't define the extent of the central business district. So staff is recommending Chapter 1052 be repealed and added as a subsection of Chapter 10.48, with the language restricting it to specifically the central business district removed, and then add the 3-hour parking restriction sticking in the 7th Street from 3rd Avenue to Mid-Block Alley, 150 feet north of 3rd Avenue on the west side. This is the first reading of this. Staff is recommending we approve the first reading. Do you have a motion of support?
Moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this?
Get it done.
I did have a question. Where I get my hair done, they have parallel parking, and they do actually have a handicap parking space because the girl that does my hair in Tumlin has a lot of elderly people. So, would that be something down the road that you would think that you would need? I mean, I'm just trying to.
As long as the neighbors don't park there, it never tends to be an issue. I think the church central has been so generous to let us staff park there.
Okay.
And people park there, so really that's been very beneficial. My only question, I guess, would be like.
Could you come to the microphone?
Sure. Is the city then responsible for clearing the snow from those parking spots because it's city parking? Does anybody know an answer to that?
Be no different than downtown.
We have cleared snow from public parking. I would say it's probably not going to be the first thing on our list to clear.
They have not in the 14 years I've been there, and that's why I didn't know if it was a thing or not. Because the neighbors have used that as a ploy also, but I have paid for snow removal, which then makes me feel like, hey, during business hours, let me use that then. But I didn't know if that was a thing.
We have cleared public parking. I don't know specifically at this location if it's been not done because, but I don't know if it wasn't done because, you know, it was already being cleared by someone else and they took it off their list, but we can discuss that outside the meeting.
And then on top of that, are they responsible for making sure the lines are painted and that everything is up to code? I've called several times. There's a pipe in the middle of those 2 parking spots that hasn't had a cap on it for years. And I've called that in several times, and the lines are almost completely gone for the parking spot.
We could certainly repaint it. I'll have to, I'm assuming it's a sanitary clean out you're talking about. That's another thing.
No clue. I've just let them know that there's a paving pool. Just as a safety precaution for kids on the right. Yeah, that's all.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Caligiuri.
Yes.
Drost.
Yes.
Hermson.
Yes.
Holmberg.
Yes.
Ibrahim.
Yes.
Sword.
Yes.
Almond.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item F. This is to consider an ordinance designated commercial industrial urban revitalization area for the city of Oskaloosa. The ordinance designates the commercial and industrial urban revitalization area in accordance with Iowa Code Chapter 404. Implements the commercial industrial urban revitalization plan as approved by the resolution of the City Council. It also establishes the legal boundaries of the revitalization area under the plan. So the ordinance, will formally designate. It repeals previous commercial industrial revitalization area ordinances. It updates section 15.40050 and the Oskaloosa Code of Ordinance to reference the new commercial and industrial urban revitalization plan and designated area, and repeals obsolete provisions in sections 3.12060 and 3.12070 of the Code of Ordinances. In and of itself, it doesn't authorize any specific tax exemptions. Tax exemptions are administered in accordance with the commercial and industrial urban revitalization plan that's adopted by the City Council, and any future exemptions granted under the plan would result in temporary reductions in taxable value as authorized by Iowa Code Chapter 404, but are intended to encourage new investment and increase long-term property valuations within the city. This is the second reading. Do we have a motion of support?
Move. Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Drost,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Holmberg,
Yes.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Sword,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Caligiuri,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item G is to consider a resolution to authorize and approve monthly voluntary contributions totaling $484,858 to the Mahaska County 911 Center for the fiscal year 2027 services. The City of Oskaloosa previously entered into a 2080 agreement between Mahaska County Emergency Management Commission and the City of Oskaloosa on August 17th of 2021 for the purpose of providing joint emergency response communication services that are facilitated by the Mahaska County Emergency Management Commission and its personnel on behalf of the City of Oskaloosa. That formal agreement ended on June 30 of 2022. The city desires to make monthly voluntary contributions totaling $484,858 for emergency response communication services that are provided by Mahaska County 911 Center from July of 2026 through June of 2027. Those monthly payments will be included in the council claims list for approval, and however, it does require a resolution to authorize and approve the payments. So do we have a motion of support?
Moved. Second.
Okay. Any discussion on this?
Are we gonna get an agreement someday?
Yeah. So there is a 911 group meeting right now, and they're looking at the organization of it. And I'd kind of like to see that play out and how that gets redeveloped. And then I think it'll make sense to set up a new agreement. So that's kind of how I've approached it.
There's active conversations.
Yeah.
There's traction right now, so it's good.
Thank you.
Okay. Other comments? Roll call, please.
Hermson,
Yes.
Holmberg,
Yes.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Sword,
Yes.
Almond, Caligiuri,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item H, this is a resolution scheduling a public hearing. It'll be on July 20th of 2026 to consider rezoning property located at 1714, taking it from LI, Limited Industrial, to LI Limited Industrial Planned Unit Development. Industrial Development LLC, on behalf of Community First Credit Union, applied to rezone the property. As a PUD development, this plan is proposed to allow design flexibility on the building height, signs, and sidewalks. Planning and Zoning Commission will be getting a chance to hold a public hearing and consider this item at their July 7th meeting. Iowa Code Section 414.4 requires the City Council to also hold a public hearing prior to any zoning amendment. And so the recommendation from staff is to approve the resolution. Do we have a motion of support?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Holmberg,
Yes.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Sword,
Yes.
Almond,
Yes.
Caligiuri,
Yes.
Drost,
Abstain?
Hermson,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item I. This is to consider a resolution approving the Core Development Improvement Grant Program for Area A, North Market Street Corridor. So the adopted 2023 Comprehensive Plan and Housing Study includes a recommendation to create micro reinvestment and enhancement programs for targeted neighborhoods. This approach allows neighbors to see the results of new investment happening easier than a citywide program where results are diffused and perhaps encourage additional neighborhood investment. Over time, the program should be rotated to different neighborhoods to help both owners and renters. So the program policy described the proposed eligibility terms and process for new community-oriented revitalization and enhancement neighborhood improvement grant program. Staff is proposing the initial targeted area focus on the North Market Street corridor between B Avenue and Rosenberger Avenue, K Avenue. The grant offers up to a $5,000 reimbursement towards qualifying exterior improvements to existing dwellings. All work requires a 50% owner match except for the do-it-yourself. That would require a 20% owner match. If funded over a 5-year period, as shown in the city's capital improvement plan, this program would generate an additional $500,000 of additional investment to preserve and enhance Oskaloosa's existing housing stock. Grant applications would be reviewed by city staff to provide recommendations to council for final approval. Do we have a motion of support for this?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Sean, is there any talk about how long will we leave that?
Yeah.
Will it be rotating 5 years, 2 years? I mean, because somebody on North H could say, hey, I want my street or whatever.
Right.
Is there?
I think right now we've got it in the capital budget for, I guess, the 5 years. Is that correct, Sean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we have it right now. But I think each year we can kind of assess and see how well it's doing, and we can always say, okay, we're ready to move on to the next street when we see it. It's ready. And I do have one other item I wanted to kind of visit with you about on this. There's different ways that we can do code enforcement. We know the normal way right now usually is you go in and let people know you have this issue, you have X date to be able to fix it, and that's the process. There is the way that we've done it with the core downtown, where there are issues, but the approach has been just, here's a grant opportunity, completely voluntary for you to be able to participate. There's also kind of like a hybrid approach where we could have code enforcement go to the area that has a deficiency and say, okay, you've got these 3 things that you need to fix, but we're not going to enforce it right now. Instead, give them a flyer and say, hey, here's the opportunity to get it fixed. So I'm just bringing this up because just want to understand the council's comfort level in how we approach the code enforcement with this. One thought is that doing kind of our standard code enforcement would probably make sense. You know, a lot of these properties do understand that they should have probably made improvements for a very long time. So I think it's reasonable to do that approach. We could do a softer approach, which would make it, I think, a little bit easier on, you know, the council and the requests that come to you. I just want to gauge your interest level and, you know, how hard do we go after it? Do you want it to be more on the voluntary side, or no, here's your deadline, be as flexible as we need to with the improvements, but how do you all feel about that?
So maybe you and I talked about this, but I'm not sure. I'm just judging this from more only the trouble that we have making contact with the owners. A lot of those owners do not live in Iowa, or let alone in Oskaloosa. So like they needed to change a meter in the 700 block. Guy was in California, couldn't get in. I mean, it was a nightmare. So I'm wondering, Sean, how are we going to reach those people? I mean, yes, there's tenants in there, right? But how are we going to reach the owners to know about this? Because a tenant probably isn't going to care.
Right.
You know, I mean, is there a thought on that before we talk about how? I mean, you know.
Sean, do you want to kind of speak to that and your perspective on this?
Yeah. So my suggestion would be to do something similar to what we did for the downtown core grant. And that was to send direct mailings to all the property owners. I would suggest doing the same here. We have approximately 90 properties within that area shown on the map, and about 47 of those being rentals. So we've got about a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dad.
Well, and I think a lot of times with the nuisance issues, it's something that needs to be addressed now.
Yeah.
Whereas I see this as being more of a property improvement program rather than now again, some of them are nuisances, right? But I think there's a balance there that I think we should continue with the nuisance enforcement as it is. But again, this is an opportunity, take care of the immediate things, but this is an opportunity to, honestly, get free money.
Get your stuff out.
And the success or the adoption or take rate of the downtown program, the success, I guess, of that, it gives me a lot of encouragement that this could be something too. It's a corridor we've talked about, I'm sure, since before I was on council. So I'm encouraged. I'm looking forward to see how it's accepted.
I like your comments, Bob. I was just thinking, it's not quite the hybrid you were suggesting, but maybe there is a need to be more firm with, in particular, the out-of-town homeowner or owners, because they have less of a vested interest in what our community looks like, perhaps. And so, I just think being a little more firm with some of those folks might be the right move.
And I was going to say, if we're going to do that, yeah, I would say we just do the standard code enforcement. Yeah, you always have to be a little careful with, treating anyone different from anyone else.
Yeah,
that's however, we do have, I think, in place the program where we come in with code enforcement and say, here's the problem, and then our standard would be, here's when it needs to be cleaned up by. Owner responds back, I can't do that, but I can do this. Right. And then we start that negotiation. I think as long as we're somewhat consistent with that, we'd be fine.
And our code enforcement does a fantastic job.
Yeah, they do.
I especially like the idea of it being for targeting towards exterior type stuff as well. So that is what people see when they're coming into town, and that's where the kinds of comments I hear the most.
So to this item, I'm just kind of thinking out loud right now. You could have like the owner occupied that we treat a little bit differently than, say, it's a landlord that owns it. But I think we would need to write that into the policy and how we enforce it. Or I do think if we can maintain one approach, that's probably going to be the easiest thing to do. We could do the voluntary type of like core downtown approach. Maybe we try that for a year and see how it goes, or even like 6 months if you wanted to, see how that picks up, and then come back in 6 months and say, okay, we want to adjust to a different approach.
I like the 6-month approach.
Yeah.
But once again, initially, all of these people in this bubble are going to get notified about this, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then that was what I was going to say. I'd rather give them an opportunity to try to do something now to the end of the year.
Yeah.
Because there's time versus going, let's
Feel
wait.
like that idea of like a 6-month kind of, we'll check in and let you know how it's going.
Yes.
Okay, let's do that then. Thanks for that feedback.
Okay. Roll call?
Yes. Ibrahim?
Yes.
Sword?
Yes.
Almond? Yes. Pellegeri?
Yes.
Drost?
Yes.
Hermson?
Yes.
Holmberg?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item J. This is consider a motion authorizing the mayor to execute an add-on agreement with R&R Real Estate Advisors, setting any sale terms for surplus city-owned commercial real estate that's located at 250 Gateway Drive. So in August of 2025, the city accepted a purchase offer from Bob Burrell for surplus property at 250 Gateway Drive, $40,000, subject to zoning approval and soil testing to build 21 townhomes on the property. And in April, they informed staff they had completed their due diligence and determined the slope of the property was not suitable for the building plan and withdrew the offer, actively seeking another site. So if council wants to continue to pursue the sale of the property for either residential or commercial development, it might be beneficial to use an agent. The city has an existing agreement with broker Grant Tucker of R&R Real Estate Advisors to market the surplus property located at 1716 A Avenue West.
Mr. Tucker can extend his listing service to this additional property at 250 Gateway Drive by way of an add-on agreement with the same terms and a 6% agent commission to be paid from property sale proceeds. So if council wants to proceed, now would be the time to establish any sale terms, such as a minimum price or form of proposals. Recommendation from staff is to approve a motion authorizing the mayor to execute the listing agreement, authorizing staff to accept all purchase development offers for council review, and don't set a minimum listing price. Do you have a motion of support to that?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any discussion on it?
Oh, it was mentioned that they did core testing on the site, and they said it wasn't feasible to build
based on the slope.
I think it was
based on the slope.
I don't think they did any, you say core, I don't know that they did any soil borings.
Oh, okay, all right. So the slope, we can move slopes.
Yeah, I think it's feasible to do the project. They just had a preference to have a different layout. I think you want to describe what he said?
Sure, yeah. The building style that Burrell likes to build, and you can see a sample of that on 8th Avenue west of the fairgrounds. They like their first floor to be built on a slab foundation and have the rear of that first floor be a walkout, like a patio walkout, as an amenity for each of those tenants. But with the slope on this site, the land drops about 18 feet from the rear to the front. And really the type of building that would be needed on this site would be to build the first floor foundation as a retaining wall to hold back that slope, build it into the hillside just a little bit, and then provide an easier control of stormwater runoff from the property to the east. So that didn't work with his particular building style, but it could work with others.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Almond?
Yes.
Caligiuri?
Yes.
Drost?
Yes.
Hermson?
Yes.
Holmberg?
Yes.
Ibrahim?
Yes.
Sword?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Item K is to consider a resolution calling a special city election on the proposition of establishing a capital improvements reserve fund and levying an annual tax for the fund. So at the February 3rd, 2026 budget study session, City Council directed staff to draft documents for council approval, to submit the tax levy for a voter approval at a special city election in fall of 2026. As the city faces continued infrastructure needs and increasing costs for maintaining public assets, additional revenue sources may be needed to maintain public infrastructure. Iowa Code 384.7 allows the city, by election, to establish a capital improvements levy not to exceed 67.5 cents per $1,000 of taxable value each year. To place this public measure on a September 8 of 2026 special city election, the council has to approve a resolution calling for the election on the levy and submit it to the county auditor no later than July 24th. Allers and Cooney prepared the resolution calling for the special election on the proposition of a continuing capital improvements reserve fund and levying an annual tax that begins on July 1st of 2027. The levy would be in the amount of 67.5 cents per thousand of taxable value for a period of 10 years. Following council direction during the budget discussions, revenue generated by the levy is restricted to pavement and street improvement projects, which include the construction, reconstruction, and repair of streets, as well as the related lighting, traffic control devices, sidewalks, and utilities that are associated with those improvements. Impact of the levy, determined by a taxable value of property based on real accuracy. So based on fiscal year 2027 values, the levy would have generated approximately $315,787 during the current fiscal year. A property with an assessed valuation of $148,000 would see an approximate $44.62 increase in their taxes. A property with an assessed valuation of $300,000 would see an approximate $90.32 increase in their taxes. The estimated amount per capita based on current census of 11,558 residents is $27.32 apiece. Staff is recommending approval of the item. Do we have a motion of support?
So move.
Second. Okay. Discussion.
I just want to say one thing, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I thought, and help me out if I am wrong, I thought we had discussed this when we went back and forth on the budget, but I don't ever remember directing us to have this be on agenda. I know we talked about that we might have to have a capital improvements, but I guess for myself personally, I don't remember us recommending that. So I just want to put that out for the record.
I think we did. It was during our first budget planning
But when
session.
we went back, then that was the first one, and then we went back and forth. I don't think I would not have recommended it.
I didn't remember it either. It may have. I guess I was disappointed to have KCCI tell me.
Yeah, me too.
So that's what we thought the direction was to bring it to you to consider, because I know we tried the previous tax to be able to do different capital improvement projects, but it was too broad, and then it was not
Failed.
And,
Right.
I think it has a much better chance of passing this way if it's for streets specifically, because it's a really high item that residents have requested in community survey and probably feedback that you've heard. So, but with all that said, it's entirely up to you at this point if you feel like it's not the right time or just don't want to do it, or if you feel like this is important, we want to proceed. We're here to support you either way.
I'm kind of like you, Andy. I feel like this is a huge topic for council. Maybe I didn't, when I got home from being gone, I didn't expect to see it on.
A good question I have are costs outpacing our available funding right now for streets and?
Do you want to kind of talk about the budget?
So, yeah, so costs continue to increase. Part of the other problem is that we continue to see more and more projects. Sean and I actually sat down during the budget process and cut several projects, not only for fiscal 27, but for years going forward. Several items were pushed ahead. Part of the problem there are several smaller projects, but there's also a lot of larger projects. So we have North 3rd Street, which is K Avenue to Glendale, and K Avenue Market to 4th coming up. That one's $1.6 million. This levy obviously doesn't tackle that, but it does tackle some of the smaller projects we continue to push off because we don't have the funding for it. Right now, all of our pavement management funding comes from 3 sources: road use taxes, it comes from our utility franchise fee, and it comes from local option sales tax. That money is finite. As road use costs continue to increase, the cost of sand, the cost of rock, the cost of just doing business to keep our roads in good order, we just need additional revenue. The revenue that we are getting from the road use tax is not pacing forward the same as the expenses.
Yeah.
And Pam, how much is a special election going to cost us?
It's probably going to be about $12,000 like it was last year. That was budgeted as part of our budget this year.
Yeah, I'm just concerned on, as far as when it comes to streets and street repair, having the repair done obviously saves us from having to replace that street in the future. Right, as far as keeping up with those repairs, I think is important. You need to be able to do that.
I have just a question, just based on a conversation I remember us having. Our opportunity to be able to do this levy will disappear soon, right? Isn't this like one of our last chances?
It could, but I don't think that the state legislator said that it's going to be taken away. It's just, that's always a possibility.
Got it.
I have a question regarding the special election. Is there an option that instead of having a special election that we could have it in the spring and not have to incur the additional $12,000?
Primary, or it would be a subsequent year, right, that it would go on.
I'd have to double check with the auditor. One of the reasons we can't do this at the same time as the November election is because state code, we can't do the special election during the midterms. So.
Is that new this year?
That I'm not sure of. That was a question I had for them when we first started talking about this earlier this year, that, what were our options? If it was part of the midterms, we could share that cost. Something like this would be our cost alone.
So I'm with the boo. I remember discussing this and talking about that special election for those reasons in September. What I remember when we ran this through the election last fall, when it failed, the pushback, the two biggest pushbacks were the use of the funds was way too broad. Basically, people interpreted, to Kajano's point, that we can use it for about anything. We could use it for a police car, we could use it for a sidewalk, we could use it for a street, we could use it for a computer.
Part of it.
This language limits it to, I think it's specifically road, pavement and street improvement projects. So we've narrowed that down to something that is, and that's one of the biggest complaints we get. I've got potholes, my road needs chip sealed for the 16th time this year. We've got, just infrastructure and disrepair. So what I like about this is that we listened to what we heard, narrowed it down to something that everybody cares about, everybody uses. I don't think there's anybody here that doesn't use the street. The second thing that we heard was there was no sunset. That I'm going to get taxed this forever. And so when this when the election was, or the vote was coming up, I compared this to the school's PEPL, property plant equipment levy, to where it's specifically for these infrastructure projects. And the difference is that the school's PEPL is sunsetted at 10 years. We vote on it every 10 years, and I hope that it continues to pass every 10 years, because that's how the school funds those projects, right, Rhonda? I mean, Bill knows that. So we listened to that, and this time around, it is sunsetted to 10 years. So this is in effect for streets and pavement projects and the things that go with the street, okay? Because I think there's those things you have to include, but then it also sunsets in 10 years. Those are the things that I like about it, is that it provides us the funding to hit, as Pam said, some of these emergency things that we need to do. And it's something that everybody benefits from, because it's an amenity. It's something that, again, it's something for everybody. We can't say it's just for one group.
Yeah. I was going to say, I like it because it's proactive on infrastructure, and the longer we wait on infrastructure, the more it's going to cost.
The only thing I have an issue with is the utilities. What's the utilities? Are we talking about the plumbing?
In this case, for our projects, it would primarily be storm sewer improvements. That would be the main utility.
But doesn't that come out the other fund?
It could be. It depends on kind of the scale. If we have something where a road might touch a pipe or something, or we have to rebore one intake, we might not dip into stormwater for that. But we wouldn't be looking to replace like storm or water main or Mid-American's infrastructure or anything like that with this.
Sewer or?
Probably would most likely, in all honesty, it would probably most likely be like if a traffic signal or something was affected by a project.
I can get that. It's just that I'm concerned about, they got utilities, and we've been replacing the sewer, stormwater pipes, et cetera. That comes from a different fund.
Right.
It does, yeah.
Okay. I would not like to see it come from this, because I'm more concerned about our street improvements. We've been doing this since 2007. Mm-hmm. And you already pushed my street out 5 years.
Yeah.
But
Joe, what I like about it is it lists the pavement and street and related lighting, traffic control, sidewalks, and utilities associated with those improvements. So it's not, Sean can't go out and just replace storm sewer.
No, but if it comes,
it would have to be part of that specific.
So if they're doing the street and they see there's an issue with a storm sewer pipe or what do you call it, pipe, sewer pipe. Yeah, they got the ground open, they're gonna replace it. What I'm saying is that paying for that portion of it should come out the other one, not this one.
I guess, and once again,
because we're already paying it. Look at our water bills.
I'm not for it. I'll say that, but I think because just because of the voting aspect, I guess if, it didn't pass the last time when it was a broader, if the people don't want it now, it won't
Right.
it won't pass. So I guess for me, I'm going to vote no. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to vote no for it. There's so much stress on people right now in the community. We could go on for days about that right now. And I believe a little bit with Kajana too. I sit on a subcommittee now. We sit on a subcommittee, Job, myself and Janet, and there are different communities that are absolutely doing away with the abate, a lot of stuff. And I think you're going to see that the more cuts that the state puts on us. And I guess I consider myself a taxpayer and a human, so I guess burdening the taxpayers with this and just having, like Janet, having another special election, for 300 and what you're just going to have to educate people, and if this is what you really want, if you really want this 300 to go on your roads, then if you don't, then you need to show up for election day.
I think.
What do you got? I was going to ask you, Sean. This is sort of a trick question, but what do you have budgeted that we were on our way to spending this fiscal year? It's fiscal 26.
This, as far as this?
Yes.
Nothing for 26 or 27.
Did you budget it on new roads, new projects, street improvements, et cetera?
I'm sorry, you're asking if, as far as what's going to be what this fund would be used for?
No, not this fund. What are we spending right now, today? Never mind this new levy. What are we going to spend this year?
Okay, well, the main project would probably be Burlington Road, which we passed earlier today. The 8th Avenue West project would be another thing that's still on.
That's fiscal 27 though, or is it 26?
We're in fiscal year 27 now.
That's right. So I'll go back. How much did we spend last year on our road projects?
I don't have
2.1? 2.1?
Right up there. Yeah.
This year we're budgeted for 2 million.
2 mil.
Next year, we're budgeted to go quite a bit up, but that's based on what?
That's based on the projects that have been approved in the capital improvement project.
Not the plan.
Right.
Whatever roadways we've.
If we get to that point and we see that, we're not going to be able to do that, we're going to push those out, right?
We have adjusted many of the projects that are proposed to be done. If this were to pass, are projects that have been deferred because of other budget cuts.
So part of my point, I looked at some of that before we came in here, and I mean, part of that is that's some of the things that we do as city government is we fix roads, and it's never going to go away, right? It's going to be forever.
Certainly.
We're not ever going to get to the place where we've got everything fixed, and so we just have to sometimes prioritize, and maybe some years prioritize more than others. And I guess my overall point is we're still going to have a pretty, I think, healthy streets budget this year, next year, even without this added increase. And granted, to some people it isn't much, maybe to a lot of people it isn't much, but I know that we had a room full of people not that many months ago that were saying, it's a lot, please don't do this to us, to the point where they probably recognized also that they were going to have to deal with some potholes and deal with some things that weren't necessarily taken care of as soon as they may like.
I think we've been doing pretty good since when we started, 07, no, 12, the street.
Yeah. Streets became a priority. There was a while in there when the local option sales tax, previous to the one that was used for the early child education, but when that thing hit its point where everything was paid off, we knew there would be a surplus, and it was targeted towards streets. And we did $1 million a year for, I think, 3 or 4 years in a row. The idea was to try to get ahead of what was becoming a bigger and bigger task of keeping the streets improved. So we were able to transition from just trying to keep streets stable actually getting ahead a little bit on the repair and some of the streets that were built during that time were built a more heavy duty, if you will, with the idea that they would last longer.
So we've been managing this pretty good, I think. I mean, it's taking a little bit longer to get some of these streets repaired, but we kind of been paying as we go, in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely should take a look at it in our budget session and, make sure there's not this trend of keep constantly pushing the street projects back, right? See if we can.
I mean, here's a question though, again, Sean, could you spend $4 million in another year, 2 years? You'd find the contractors to do it and take care of everything
Yes.
in the 12-month period of time?
You could double my streets budget and I could spend it.
On new streets, new roads.
On rebuilding roads. I mean, one thing in the long term, the city's best interest, in my opinion, would be to rebuild all of our chip seal roads to other surface types, because frankly, chip seal roads are not efficient to maintain. Realistically, it would be wonderful in the city's long-term planning in order to upgrade those roads to either, at least to asphalt, if not to PCC. But obviously, with how the budget is now, that's not a realistic expectation. But no, I don't think there would be any issue with any funding that I can get into streets. I will put into streets and improving our road system. And there's a lot that we can improve still if we want to.
Yeah, I just more interested in if you think there's a supply of contractors just that would be lined up outside of Oskaloosa and come in and.
We've seen interest in our bids. I mean, it comes and goes sometimes depending on when you bid and who's available and whatnot. We've had bids where we didn't have many interested bidders, but right now it seems like the bidding environment is strong. I think if we were to invest in that, we would continue to see reasonable number of bids, especially if we put together attractive projects. Burlington, we saw 5 bids on that, and that came in significantly under our expectations, partially as a fact that we had interested bidders. So I do think we have contractors available. There's probably some finite limit to what we could spend. If we got infinite money, then yes, you're right, we would at some point run out of contractors that were interested, but I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're close to that number where we'd be out of contractors.
I would add, I think, and then I'll allow us to move on. But I would add, I think probably to Jana's points earlier in the meeting, we do need to present and also show the community really here's the priority and here's the list of projects. And I think, I'm not saying that we don't have something sort of like that in our budget book, but the community doesn't know about it. And so
I think for
people to support this, and the majority of our folks to support, maybe they never would, but at least to be a lot less concerned with how we're going to do this. I think we should do a little bit more on that if we're going to be serious about
education.
Well, yeah, and we certainly can do that. I mean, if we want to right now, we can look and if you look on the CIP sheet that's up right now, the projects that are highlighted in green are the ones that are targeted. If we were to receive this, those are the projects. So we could certainly list those out in some way as a part of what we're doing, saying these are our targeted locations or something like that if council wanted to.
I just think that might help convince Kajana and a whole host of other folks in the community that this is a worthwhile activity.
I was just going to reference that as well. Just make sure Kajana's questions were answered. Because 2 things were, what are the projects and what about still issuing debt to do these projects. I think the debt question, Pam answered that earlier, is that this levy would help us do the 30s and the 280s and the 250s, but the $1.5 million projects, we're still going to have to bond for those in order to do those, and that's part of that long-term planning that happens, that Pam is looking at, that Sean's looking at, that everybody is looking at. I think as far as the priorities, I think this sheet right here, and again, it's in the budget book, and people have to know it's there. Get a copy of the budget. I mean, Pam could provide that to anybody upon request. There's a whole section on CIP that shows all those capital projects, equipment purchases, and how those prioritize over the next 5 years, and that's updated every year. And I reference it all the time. People ask me about a street, and I pull out that budget book, and I'm like, well, let's see. Nope, it's not there. Or, well, it was 27, but now it's 2030 because of these discussions. And again, that's just through my 8 years on council that I have seen that. People are like, why isn't my street getting done? It's like, well, funding it got kicked out. And so those are, I mean, that's where I do have faith that Pam and Sean, we need a few more Seans on staff. But, I mean, you guys are working hard to figure out how to make this all balance. And, I just hate getting.
I have one question. Pam, do you think that we would know before our next meeting if it could be in the spring, so we didn't have that special election, and then we'd have time to provide more information to our constituents?
I can check with the county auditor's office tomorrow to see what our other possibilities are for holding the election. If it is to be included in the fall election, it would have to be passed at the meeting on July 20th because we have to have everything submitted by July 24th.
I think I misunderstood. I didn't think we would be allowed to have it in the fall election.
The election would be September 8th, not in November.
There would be a special election.
The special election, correct. Because it cannot be included with the midterm election.
Okay.
I'm trying to see, Andy, if we can save some dollars, 12,000 or something.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
One other comment. I know the ballot language has to be pretty specific, because I know Pam has been visiting with an attorney on how does this need to look. So I know that's the language that's before you, but there's discussion about should we list those specific projects, because then we'll understand that better. I don't know if we can do that on this or not. It might be a question that we have to look into.
Okay, sure, no problem.
That'd be a long.
I think as much as the projects shift around and move and timing, you have one project that all of a sudden rears its ugly head.
I think what we have here, this description in here, except for utilities, I would take utilities out.
Makes sense, if that's okay with the attorney, if we
Yeah.
Take the utilities out.
because you're right, we could have our other utilities pay for those costs.
So basically, street improvements and, construction, reconstruction. You can shorten this up a little bit, because you don't want it very lengthy on the ballot.
Just remove
By taking the utilities out, how does that impact us budget-wise? I mean, if you've got a $280,000 project that you're going to use this funding for, and the stormwater, and you rip into the street and realize the stormwater needs replaced, but that wasn't in the budget, then how do we replace the storm sewer, Sean?
So I guess I'd just like to step back a little bit and just say, I don't view, the goal of any of these projects would not be to do any significant improvements to any utilities. Including utilities is mainly so that if we have like a valve adjustment or something that's a $100, $200 line item, that we aren't having to dip into another account and making the project more complicated in order to complete it. If we had something that was a significant storm sewer expense or something like that, we would obviously want to use our judgment and pull from another account.
Okay.
It's not, the goal of that is not to pay for utility increases, it's to just prevent a complicated situation due to a small fund amount.
I would say probably the best example is it Third? North Third? That is mostly sewer project with a street project attached. So most of that is going to be coming out of the sewer. We have X amount in there for pavement management in order to replace the street that's going to.
Right.
Yeah.
But the sewer project will be paid out of sewer funds.
Right, okay.
So, yeah, so like I said, probably the thinking about it a little bit more, the most common utility expense that I would imagine is valve adjustments or manhole adjustments, things like that that are really very small
Okay.
items. But when you're doing an overlay, you've got to do them.
It's like those man covers over there on North Market everybody's trying to miss, 'cause you hit them.
Yeah, that.
Put a washer under it. Okay.
Okay. Any other comments from council? Pam, can you tell me what the motion is again?
So the motion is to approve scheduling a special election for the capital improvement levy with a first from Drost and a second from Ibrahim.
Roll call, please.
Oh, wait, hold on, sorry.
Whoops. Do we have one more comment?
Yeah, but I apologize. Knowing that you're going to look into some stuff again with Ganter's coming up shortly, can we table this so that we
That's
can
what I
vote on
Yeah, I
it?
wondered.
Instead of having to deal with the tie thing we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Okay, so is that a motion to table?
Yes.
Can we table?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Just a second here, just a second.
Okay.
Make my notes so they're good.
Okay.
So this is a motion to table the item till the July 20th meeting.
January 29, how about that?
All right.
Roll call, please.
All right, to table Caligiuri,
Yes.
Drost,
Yes.
Hermson,
Yes.
Holmberg,
Yes.
Ibrahim,
Yes.
Sword,
Yes.
Almond.
Yes.
Okay, that passes as tabled. Item L. This is a discussion on dissolving the South Central Regional Airport Agency according to the conditions established by the Federal Aviation Administration. I believe we've got, yep, Mr. Nardini, would you please come forward? So, didn't know what kind of a presentation you had planned, but I thought what I would do was just introduce you and tell us about the history of the FCRAA and then what we have before us tonight.
Yes, I'd be happy to, Mayor. For those of you, Mayor and Council, first of all, thank you for having me here this evening. I'm Mike Nardini. I'm the City Administrator for the City of Pella. I'm also the Secretary for the South Central Regional Airport Agency. And what I was here to discuss this evening is recent communication that we've had from the Federal Aviation Administration. Now, as far as the history of the project, Sean,
We have the PowerPoint that you used.
we have a brief presentation. If we could actually go to the second slide, I would appreciate it. This is a map of the project. And when we talk about the South Central Regional Airport that we have, this project actually started in 2012. And one of the reasons that it started in 2012 was the thought at the time it was being proposed was a Category C airport. And at the time, at the City of Pella, we had a large amount of Category C flights that were landing at our airport. Our airport is a Category B airport, same as the City of Oskaloosa airport as well. And kind of the rule when you talk about Category C flights, Category C jets are enhanced jet that are capable of traveling across the country. They also have a higher approach landing speed on it as well. So when you look at a Category C airport on this, the reason this was important to us at the time, and still I'd say airport infrastructure is extremely important to the City of Pella, is that when you look at the higher landing approach speeds, our airport had significant site constraints around it. If you're familiar with the Pella Airport, we have Highway 163 to the north. We also have a very busy road to the south of the airport, that's Idaho Drive, and we butt right up to the Boss Lawn development and golf course as well. So we have a lot of site constraints at the Pella Airport. When we began the process in 2012, we were actually in the process of planning a replacement airport for our airport, and we were approached on the regional airport. As far as the City of Oskaloosa, they also had business and industry in the area that could utilize the Category C airport as well, would be beneficial. So when you look at what was proposed back in 2012, the thought was instead of supporting two smaller airports that were both Category B airports and both had separate issues, for us it was site constraints. For the Oskaloosa airport, it was location challenged on it as well. Instead of supporting two smaller airports, the thought was to build one regional airport that was capable of supporting the business and aviation needs of the region. And that was what was proposed in 2012. And when the partnership was approved, it was approved by Mahaska County, City of Oskaloosa, and the City of Pella. I would also say it also had strong support from the Federal Aviation Administration as well as the State Department of Transportation. Now, one of the areas when we start talking about planning for airports, it's always important to understand when we talk about the history of airports, it's very difficult to site airports on it. When we look at a Category C airport that you see up there on the screen, on it, at airport, the primary runway is right around 5,500 linear feet. And I've mentioned these Category C aircraft that have higher approaches or higher approach speeds when they land at the airport. One of the items that we have at Category B airports, we have what's called a runway operating free area. So the only thing that can be in that area is a runway, and it usually extends about 300 feet past the end of the runway. And the thought is that there's a jet that skids off the end of the runway, there's enough clearance on there to stop the jet without anything with that. Category C airports are required to have 1,000 feet at the end of the runway, just due to simply the higher landing approach speed of the aircraft. So when we looked at this with the Department of Transportation, one of the thoughts the state had, and it was also supported by the Federal Aviation Administration, is that this project should be planned on an intermodal basis as well. So we spent a lot of time looking at sites on the history of this project, just about a year on it. And originally, I think we had somewhere right around 9 sites that were located between Pella and Oskaloosa. That got narrowed down to 3 sites. And ultimately, we landed on this site. A little bit of background: when you look at a regional airport, airports are generally like to be built on bridges simply because of wind coverage requirements. And then if you look at, basically you're looking at flat ground space. When you look at the primary runway being at a minimum of 5,500 linear feet, you add on 1,000 feet at each end of the runway, you're quickly up to 7,500 linear feet. And if you also look at the regional airport and factor in that you'd like to be in somewhat close proximity to a major highway as well, there's in realities a very, very limited number of sites that could actually work for the regional airport. We picked this site out in 2013 and ran all the parties as well at that time. And we proceeded with the environmental assessment for the project. Now, the environmental assessment took right around 4 years to complete for the project. So a little bit of background on this: when we talked about intermodal and starting the process with the federal government, one of the thoughts that we had was, in addition to replacing the 2 airports and sharing 1 airport as opposed to operating 2 smaller airports, and we also thought if Pella was in the process of replacing their airport, the actual cost of the regional airport would be about approximately the same. So from the taxpayer standpoint, if there's going to be an investment in this area, let's make the investment that can benefit as many parties as possible with it. And then 2, from an operational standpoint, the city of Oskaloosa is currently supporting their airport. We're supporting the airport. Instead of supporting 2 airports, we share 1 airport. There'd be less operational cost for the parties as well. When we landed on this site, the reason I wanted to stress as far as the importance of intermodal planning on this as well, we're also hoping to attract additional business and industry to this area, and there's some thoughts that there could be additional development on the site with this regional airport that's currently located about 5 miles west of the city of Oskaloosa, very close proximity to the Northwest bypass as well. So we thought that there was a strong possibility for additional economic development as well. Now, when we look at the regional airport that we have, initially the primary runway would be right around 5,500 linear feet. Now, we also had planned a crosswind runway, and that's very important because that secondary runway that basically runs east-west on it as well, it's right around 3,800 linear feet. It's intended for 2 purposes. You usually have a crosswind runway to make sure that you have 95% wind coverage area for your airport with it. So with the crosswind runway, we'd be able to meet that 95% threshold. But probably more importantly is once the primary runway requires any type of maintenance in the future, you'd actually be able to close the runway down, perform the maintenance, and still operate the airport using crosswind runway as well. In addition to the crosswind runway, we also had a terminal area along with hangar space out there and plenty of room to grow. In fact, I would like to mention that the primary runway had the capacity to actually go up to 7,000 linear feet as well. So in planning purposes, we really thought that this project was intended to meet the aviation needs of the region for the next 20 years on it. Now, a little bit of background and update on where we're at South Central Regional Airport Agency. To date, we've acquired 378 acres of property for the project. Now, if in case you're wondering how many is required for the project, everything that you see up in green is just about 600 acres. Not everything is required by fee title. There's some navigation easements that would suffice as well. But if we were to pursue and purchase everything, it'd be about 600 acres as well. Now, as far as recent developments, As you're aware, Mahaska County has pulled out of the agreement, is withdrawn from the agreement. And after the Mahaska County withdrawal, there was communication from the South Central Regional Airport that they were unable to acquire the remaining property for the project. At that time, the city of Oskaloosa and the city of Pella passed an amendment which placed the project on hold, and I believe that was sometime in 2024. Subsequently, we've reached out to the Federal Aviation Administration asking for guidance on this project, and I would like to mention on this as well. To date, I'd be remiss if I didn't state this. I stated that the project was very strongly supported by the State Department of Transportation and the Federal Aviation Administration. The Federal Aviation Administration has funded just shy of $5.3 million into this project to date as well. So please keep this in mind when we talk about the communication from the Federal Aviation Administration. So if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and move on to the slide here. The first question that we had for the Federal Aviation Administration in considering the options for the project is, how long do we have to complete the project, and how long would we have to repay the grants for the project? And the answer to that is the first land acquisition grant for the project was issued in 2019. What the Federal Aviation Administration has informed us is that you would have 20 years from that date to complete the project, but they've also told us that that date needed to be extended in the future. We would be able to get that extended. So as far as completing the project, that date is actually 2039 is the target date for completing the project. That's also the amount of time that you would have if the project does not proceed to be able to pay back the grants for the project as well. So 2039 is kind of the key here when you talk about the regional airport as well. Now, probably the $100 question for the parties to consider, a very important one for us to consider, is what are the requirements that we have as far as repaying grants if the project doesn't proceed? And basically what the Federal Aviation Administration has stated is that we would need to repay back the federal acquisition share for the grants that was used for the property, or the fair market value of the property, whichever is greater. So if you just wanted to look at it simply, whatever the grounds were to sell for, we would have to pay that back to the Federal Aviation Administration. However, because the requirement is that whichever is greater, either the acquisition share that they issued, the original grant amounts, so that would be $5.3 million I would use for planning discussions, or the fair market value of this as well. It's very important to keep in mind that if the project does not proceed, we'd want to make sure we gave the South Central Regional Agency ample time to be able to sell the property to ensure that we meet those targets as well. So let's go ahead, please. Oh, before we do, I'd be remiss if I said, to date, the FAA has issued roughly about $5.3 million in grants for the project, but you could see that just as far as the amount issued for land grants is 4.8. The difference between these two numbers is, if you're familiar, and for those of you that were on the city council throughout this project, we're very much aware of this, but maybe some of you might be for the first time hearing about this or the update on it. In picking out sites for regional airport, there's quite an extensive process that you have to go through, and I would tell you it's not easy to come up with an airport site. We mentioned that we had 9 airport sites originally. The reality is that number that would actually work for an airport between Pella and Oskaloosa is probably less than 3 on it as well. So there's quite a process. There was an extensive environmental review for this project. It took about 4.5 years to complete during this time. So if you were to look at the difference between the $5.3 million and the $4.8 million that was issued for the land acquisition grants, the difference between that is the environmental assessment. And then we received environment and fund grant funding for that as well. So for planning purposes, if the project were not to proceed in the direction given to the SCRA to sell the property, we should probably plan for the higher amount, but it may only be the $4.8 million. So let's go ahead, please. This next item, I think, is the key item for the city of Pella, at least in our discussions, and maybe for the city of Oskaloosa too. While the project remains on hold, the FAA has informed us that they will not fund development projects at either airport on this. And specifically what they stated is that restriction is going to remain in place until the SCRA provides written notification that they're not pursuing the regional airport, and there's a concrete plan submitted for the disposal of the property and the repayment of the grant funds. Now for the city of Pella, that's a significant item on the project, and the issue is that since 2012 on this project, both the city of Pella's airport and the city of Oskaloosa's airport have been scheduled to be closed, which means you guys have been under the same restrictions as us. We've been limited to safety projects at both of our respective airports. One of the items that we have is that we have some deferred maintenance over the years on our airports. Our primary runways in need of rehabilitation. There's also a need for a crosswind runway, not a crosswind, parallel taxiway, but a parallel taxiway to be installed at the Pella Airport, as well as some other items at the Pella Airport as well. So when we talk about not funding development projects at the Pella Airport, that's a big item for the city of Pella, and please keep that in mind. Now, one of the items that I was pleasantly surprised with, I was pleased with the FAA's participation. And I would say, as far as a partner to this project, the FAA has been tremendous to work with through the years, and they've really financially supported this project, and they strongly supported the project. But what they've also stated is that with the grant funds that get returned or repaid to them, that those projects, those grant funds may be used for grants at the respective airports in the future. They would determine a fair allocation between the two existing airports. So a good way to look at this is if the project does not proceed forward, the FAA may issue grants to the two respective municipal airports to fund capital improvement projects at those airports as well. So before I go on to kind of a summary, is there any questions on the communication from the Federal Aviation Administration? Okay. So let's, I guess, right here, we have a map of the current SERA land that we currently own. That's 378 acres of property. I would like to switch gears and kind of talk about the discussions that we've had at the City of Pella, just to bring you up to speed and also inform what the City of Council is proposing as well. Now, overall, I'll speak for myself. Administration, I've been involved in this project since day one. Same thing when I told the City Council. I think as far as solutions, as far as aviation needs for the region, also the ability to probably attract additional economic development and jobs for the region, the regional airport project, in my opinion, was the optimal solution. And I believe that you're looking at closing two airports and building one airport that's capable of meeting the aviation needs and sharing those operational costs, most likely the most cost-effective solution for the region as well. But at the same time, I would also tell you it faces some significant obstacles as far as being able to proceed in the foreseeable future. The first one that we're basically encountering, since Mahaska County withdrew from the SCRA, the SCRA is unable to acquire the remaining property for the project. If you recall, we stated that we've acquired about 378 acres. We would need to acquisition between fee title and navigation easements somewhere right around 600 acres for the complete project on this. There's just not a foreseeable path forward right now for the SCRA to be doing that. The second item that I want to bring to your attention, and we talked about this quite a bit at the City Council, is the issue of 220th Street. And I'd like to state the plans call for the closure and ultimately rerouting of 220th Street. The SCRA board really tried to work on that and still is open to working on that. Before this site was chosen in 2013, it was communicated to the Mahaska County supervisors back in 2013 on the need to close 220th Street, 220th Street. And we received a letter from the time at the county engineer that talked, as long as there was a suitable road relocation plan, that they would be willing to close 220th Street in the future. Since that time, we don't believe that is the case, and it creates another, what I would call, challenge the project moving forward. So as far as advancing the project, we face challenges both from the land acquisition side of things, being able to actually acquire the property needed for the regional airport, and also the issue of 220th Street is problematic on it as well. So those are the two big items for this. Now, as far as the City of Pella side of things, what we also talked about was improvements that are needed at the City of Pella's airport as well. And when you look at this, we believe we have some perceived needs that are going to be needed to be addressed within the next 2 to 5 years at the Pella Airport. And we talked quite a bit at the City Council level on the path forward for the project, and there was an overall feeling that it probably wasn't likely in the foreseeable future. So after a considerable amount of discussion on this, what the Pella City Council voted to proceed with was to work on an amendment with the City of Oskaloosa. The City of Oskaloosa was willing to basically accomplishes two things: to inform the Federal Aviation Administration that the parties are no longer pursuing the regional airport, and to direct the South Central Regional Airport Agency to liquidate its property to repay back the Federal Aviation Administration grants as well. We also talked about the need to make sure we gave the SCRA enough time to be able to sell the property to pay back those grants, because the reality, if there's any shortage of grant funds to pay back the federal acquisition share on the project, it means that that could be an additional cost for the cities as well. And so again, that time period is really super important as well. So Mayor, that is my presentation on it as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
That's my thinking. Council members, a number of us have been involved in this for some time as well. But do you have questions or that you would like to ask as far as the process we went through, some of the thinking of the time, any of that?
I didn't make it to your last council meeting, Mike. I made several of them over there, but I know I'm friends with a few people on your council. And I think they understand the void and the frustration that this has put on our city. I'm a very good friend. One of my son's best friend's dad is on one of your companies, but I'm not going to go into that. But I think I've only been on 4.5 years, and to put an end and to hopefully become Oskaloosa Mahaska County, I hope I've seen your 12 to 15 year improvements for your Pella. I was just looking at them for your Pella Airport, and I hope you get those improvements. I think that back when this started, there was a different county supervisors, there were some different agendas, there were some things that probably should have never happened, and I think this whole thing was just smelled bad. My dad used to say, if it smells bad, it is bad. And so I appreciate the fact that the county actually pulled out on that. I think that showed good faith in there, and it got it voted down twice. You know, we all know that. I hope that there's an answer for both of us, but this is, you know, you hope for things, and with the project being never going to be, it's time to move on. And I'm glad you guys came to it before we did. We should have probably came to that before now.
I'm curious if, even though the county had withdrawn some number of years ago, are they under any obligations with this proposed, we'll call it dissolution, or?
That's a very good question, and actually I'd like to refer that to your legal counsel, at least for the first pass.
Thanks. I would not want to shoot from the hip at the thing. I would want to look back at the documentation and such, go through it in more detail. It's been some time since I've read through that. As I recall, there were, of course, some provisions in there for some liquidated damages to be fixed and assessed. But quite frankly, it's been a while since I've looked through that, and it's a big enough question. I don't want to shoot from the hip on that one.
I appreciate that.
Certainly, though, I think that potential is out there, and obviously it's a good question.
Other questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
So on the agenda, this is a discussion item on the dissolution of the SCRAA. I think we have a compelling number of reasons why that should happen.
I'd like to make a motion that we, it's just discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion for the next council meeting that we,
Can we make a motion?
So similar to the Pella City Council, they didn't make any kind of motion that way either. But what the SCRA is looking for is temperature. What's your opinion? What are your thoughts? And so if the council collectively opines that this should dissolve, and then we should proceed, and Bob and I and Sean are involved with this, of course, and then we've got another member who's not here tonight representing the SCRA. If we get the sense from the councils that this is the direction we should go,
It'd be the same reasons, I would say, what the Pella Council did in regards, start selling the land off, things like that.
Yeah.
I would go with all that.
But not be in such a hurry that we end up getting, we cost ourselves.
Right.
And we should
Even more.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's the general feeling, is that when a seller is in a rush, then the market is kind of turned against them.
Well,
So,
that'd be further discussions with the board, right?
the SCRA,
Right,
yeah.
that's what I mean. So they just need input from Pella and Oskaloosa, you know, what to do, but it's been pretty well vetted here somewhere now. What's the next steps or so?
Yeah, yeah, and so the SCRA would reconvene then, discuss on the opinions of the individual councils, and then start taking action on their own.
So tonight was just a discussion. Does their board need official something from the two cities?
What are we looking for tonight? What do you need?
So the next step, right now, it is just discussion, but we need to amend the current 2080 with the provisions that Mike mentioned, the statement that we're not pursuing it anymore. But that's the next step, is getting that, and both councils would need to approve that.
And then that sets the next steps in motion for the SCRAA.
Start selling.
Because again,
all that.
the amended, Mike, are you still, yeah, there you are. The amended 2080 that we passed in 2024, that stated that, number one, the project was on hold, that we were pausing. And number two, that the SCRA could not make any decisions related to either acquisition or disposal of the property, or make any plans for building an airport without the prior consent of both councils of the city of Oskaloosa, city of Pella. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Yes. So we have to amend the 2080 again.
Right.
And then the SCRA board takes that direction from both councils and acts upon that.
That is correct.
Per the desires of the two councils. Yes, thank you.
Let me, if I could, ask this question too, and bear with me once again, it's Mike. It's been some time since I've gone through it. Assuming arguendo at Pella, the Pella City Council does not desire to pursue the project generally, would it even be possible for the city of Oskaloosa to pursue it alone in any event?
As far as, if I understood the question correctly, if the city of Pella does not decide to pursue the project, does Oskaloosa pursue the project?
I mean, is that even a feasible possibility? It certainly would look like Pella is not of a mind that they want to go ahead with it. And assuming arguendo that's the case, I mean, is it even a possibility that Oskaloosa would ever be able to go it alone in any event?
As far as, I may refer this question, but here's just some general observations. Why this project was appealing, I'll answer this probably in an indirect way. The estimated cost of the regional airport is about $30 to $35 million. When you look at the local match on that, we've always operated it to be about a $7 to $8 million local match. If either city would decided to be able to pursue the project by themselves, they would still have the same obstacles that we're currently facing with the property acquisition, the closure of 220th Street. And then one of the items that made the project appealing in the first place was to be able to share the cost of the local match on it as well. And so the respective local match to each of the cities would have been much smaller than $7 to $8 million. And then there would have been the benefit of each city being able to share on the operating cost as well. So from an economic standpoint, it would become, answer to your question, it would become more challenging if either city tried to proceed alone.
I think just a couple things I think ought to be mentioned. There was a comment made earlier about how we should put this thing to bed, put the nail in the coffin. I mean, we've heard that a lot of times through the last, probably since 2012. You and Joe, you almost hit that, don't you? 2012. As far as liquidating the property, to Mike's point, it's been made multiple times that government is slow. Number one. Number two, we need to make sure we're making the right decision. So, could you get some offers, listed and post it for sale, get some offers in the next couple of weeks, and come to an agreement? Sure. Is that the best interest? No. Could we even do that as a public entity? Doubtful. Just the process has to go through. So, Again, the training that we went through earlier, government is slow for a reason. I think the other point that you had made, Mike, that's probably the most disappointing thing for me is as I've continued to learn, I've made statements at the SRA meetings before and probably at council that my perspective on this project is significantly different today than it was in 2012.
Oh, yeah.
In 2012, my perspective was that this is an airport for Musco, for Pellicorp, and for Vermeer, and maybe PPI or Clow or Oski Foods. To me today, as I've learned more about transportation, and you mentioned multimodal and manufacturing and the importance of transportation, logistics, and related infrastructure, this project to me today in 2026 has less to do with the people who are here doing business here, employing people here today, than it does the people who are not yet here. And I've got a bad feeling that 20 years from now we're going to be saying we really missed that boat. I could be wrong, but I think again the path forward is difficult. We talked about it at length at our last SCRA meeting. To David's question, I think it'd be a pretty tough road to hoe on your own. Even if we could, I think it's tough. I hate the position we're in. I wish we could proceed, but I'm not optimistic about that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Janet, do you want to add anything?
I just want to say, I think it's really sad how this project has pit people against each other. I understand that everybody has their own opinion, but sometimes it might not be always the way forward is the one that you think. But I do think this project would have been really good for our community. I just hate to see that it brought out the worst of everybody. And that to me was really heartbreaking to see what it did to our community. So we should do better as a community and as a county, because if we can't get through stuff, we're not going to be able to do any project in the future that's going to be meaningful for future generations to come.
All right, so the next step is make the change.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So I think the sentiment is known, the direction that the CRA needs to go. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Item 9. This is reports from city staff. City manager, anything?
He's got one.
Whoa, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Sean's got a whole 30-minute presentation probably.
Yeah, the transfer of jurisdiction on the Highway 63 Market Street from the Iowa Department of Transportation City. There is a lengthy memo on this. Do you have a presentation put together, Sean? Or any further discussion? Or anything you want to present?
You want to shorten it?
I can read it out, but
Well, that's a long one.
Summary.
I think it'd be helpful to read
Okay.
out personally.
Yeah. Okay,
Really?
so the DOT is undertaking construction of the Northwest Bypass, no surprise there. It's going to connect Highway 63 directly to Highway 163, generally northwest of the city of Oskaloosa. The project eliminates the DOT's need for the segment of Highway 63 within the city limits, and the DOT is proposing a transfer of jurisdiction, or a TJ, to the city. So think all of North Market and South Market, that's Highway 63. If you've got a bypass, you don't need that. So prior to Chapter 306, Section 306.8 of the Code of Iowa says the terms for the transaction that would take place. That for the transfer of jurisdiction, number 1, prior to a change in jurisdiction of a road or street, the unit of government having jurisdiction shall either place the road or street and any structures on the road or street could repair, or provide the transfer of money to the appropriate jurisdiction in an amount sufficient for the repairs to the road or street and any structures on the road or street. Number 2, Transfers of the jurisdiction and control of roads and streets may take place if agreements are entered into between the jurisdictions of government involved in the transfer of the roads and the streets. So, the DOT sent an agreement to the staff on June 9th of 2025. It proposed a payment of $896,000 to the city for the 1.6 mile segment of roadway between the intersection of Highway 92 and the northern city limits. That would be a rate of $560,000 per mile. This represents the cost the DOT would incur to perform a non-interstate pavement modernization pavement replacement. On July 7th of 2025, the City Council approved an engineering contract with Garden & Associates to prepare a cost estimate for the reconstruction of Market Street, with the intention being to use this estimate in negotiations. The estimate came to $7.2 million for the portions of work related to the DOT, $4.5 million per mile. Staff also contracted Terracon to perform subsurface exploration by collecting pavement cores along the length of Highway 63 in the city limits to show the existing roadway conditions. Staff and the DOT have had regular meetings regarding the TJ agreement since receiving the original proposal, and the resulting discussion items: number one, the original 1.6 mile segment was incorrect. Should have been included in, it should have instead included all 3.2 miles of Highway 63, that is North and South Market Street. The price that DOT is able to perform HMA, which is hot mix asphalt projects, is significantly different from the price that the city receives. While the DOT is not willing to include the full cost the city has observed due to items that are not their responsibility, they are considering raising the payment from the $560,000 per mile they originally proposed to $816,000 per mile to better meet the city's costs for the HMA asphalt, the milling, and mobilization costs of the projects. Number three, the segment of roadway between B Avenue and Rosenberger Avenue has several more issues than the other segments. The subsurface exploration has revealed the PCC base is in the worst condition in this area. There are significant stormwater issues which have been created due to the multiple asphalt overlays, and that includes stormwater intakes that are not functioning to their full capacity due to constricted inlets, a lack of curb and gutter, and driveways which pool water or which flow back into properties due to the elevated road surface. The DOT indicated they are considering a payment of $1.8 million for this 0.6 of a mile segment. That's a $3 million per mile amount, again representing portions of the project they feel are their responsibility. So while the DOT has not formally sent a revised offer, the discussion would indicate a possible offer of approximately $3.92 million, which is an average of $1.2 million per mile. Staff is requesting council discuss the item and direct staff on how to continue negotiations with the DOT. Finally, staff notes that adding Market Street to the city's street inventory represents a significant increase in maintenance for us. The city currently maintains approximately 70 miles of roadway, so the 3.2 miles of new roadway represents approximately a 5% increase in our overall system, while not accounting for the fact that it's a high volume and also wide road. During snow operations in particular, it's likely the city would need 1 or 2 for this additional roadway. So that's what we're to discuss. Probably most of this could be summarized into what do we think we need to be paid. And so there's a lot of reasoning here as to why certain amounts could be considered. Is there anything else that staff would like to add to this?
Just one item, when we're talking about the staffing, you mentioned in there, obviously, a question we've been discussing a lot. I would note that this is not part of the general fund. It is a streets fund. It's its own fund. So it's treated differently than some of the discussions we've had. The way that we could support another position or two is in the streets fund. Right now, there's a transfer of $300,000, I think is the most recent one, to the streets capital fund to help do, street projects. We could reduce that down, say $100,000, $200,000 to be able to support an additional position or two. So it'd be less going into the capital, but that's how we could do it.
So in these discussions you're having, can you also include maybe they give us a snowplow? How many snowplows?
Did they see the estimate?
Huh?
Oh, sorry.
No.
Were they able to see, I mean, it's.
Yes, we shared that with them, and the difference between the price the DOT gets on projects and the price that we get on projects is something that has been brought up multiple times. One thing the DOT is very adamant about is that their responsibility is for the main roadway, the actual travel lanes, and that anything adjacent to that is not their responsibility. So their claim is that they're not responsible for the curb and gutter, as they wouldn't normally have that. They're not responsible for the storm system, which is correct, but the counter to that I had was basically that, well, your overlays have essentially damaged our infrastructure that's not in the roadway. And so there is, another thing is there are some items along the roadway that they're certainly not their responsibility. Like that 7.2 did include the sidewalks, some work on the sidewalks, because if we reconstruct this, we're going to configure it differently, and the sidewalks are going to have. So there are some expenses that probably the DOT is accurate in saying shouldn't have been on there. I haven't gone through with a fine-tooth comb to say this is exactly what that project would be if I took out all those specific items, but that's just to kind of tell why there's that difference between what we're proposing and what they are. The other large difference is just that the original proposal they have, an R3 project is essentially an asphalt overlay. And so, the largest difference between what we're proposing is there's issues with the infrastructure that's under market. There's the sanitary sewer is in need of being replaced. The storm sewer system really is not in great shape and needs to be replaced. I'm sure a lot of the other utility companies would love a bigger project like this with an excuse to redo some of that. I know the water department, if we were to go forward with this, would want to fully replace the water main under Market Street. Mm-hmm. And so even though their offer would be for an R3 project, in terms of amount, in the areas where essentially we're saying, okay, that would be reasonable, we're accepting it, but that might not be our goal for what to do with the road. But we are kind of, that amount would be acknowledging that would fix the roadway that they're responsible for at that amount.
How far is the road? Is that the city limit? Is that right there at the radio station, the road itself? About? The
north city limit?
The north, when you head north towards, what's that street by the radio station? Is it just past the armory or before the armory?
I believe it's just before the armory.
Okay.
Does the road bed enter into any of these conversations? I'm thinking of the area near the library as you're heading south on Market, that was an area that failed.
Yeah, and that gets a bit into the DOT, essentially the area that's failed when we had the initial 3-laning project and we had the 7 turning lane. The DOT's claim on that area is essentially that everything that's off to the side is really parking that the city added, and that the travel lanes are fine. That's the perspective that they're taking. So
the city added.
But did they pay for the repairs on South Market? Where those
they did do them
failed?
when they were coming up during the 3-laning before we converted it back to being a 2-lane.
That's fine.
At least we have precedence there. They paid for it there, they could pay for it there.
Just a quick comment. I just want to compliment Sean on all the due diligence on this.
Yeah.
We've gone a long way. So compliments.
Yeah, I appreciate the additional commentary and attention to that section on North Market between B and Rosenberger, and you see that storm sewer intake's about 3 inches and it should be whatever. So thank you for that as well.
Yeah, and I think the DOT has been receptive to it. Took some discussion, but they're kind of more receptive now to that segment really is not appropriate for.
Right, they understand we have to maintain.
Right, and that's why they're even considering that. There was a long time during this process where they weren't really even willing to discuss that segment as being a reconstruction project.
That's the same way when they paved A years ago, blacktop. They just laid it on top because you can't see the curb and gutter anymore. As before you could. So
what kind of guidance are you looking for?
So what I'm looking for at this point is, obviously the DOT hasn't made a formal offer at this time, but they've given us some numbers on what is reasonable. Is this I guess what I'm looking for, is this an offer that the city council would be willing to seriously consider as an offer if the DOT were to make it? Should I go back to them stating this is not acceptable, we need some other amount or some additional?
Yes, I would just.
I don't want to bring something that we've negotiated on to council and then say,
Yeah.
and then to have you say, no, we're not even in the ballpark. I don't want to do that on either party.
So you're still waiting for more info from the DOT?
I think the DOT is kind of waiting to see if we have more direction on what we're wanting before they come back with a formal offer.
John, if I can ask you a question which may impact on the others would respond on that. Obviously, 306.8 jurisdictions may take place if agreements are entered into between the jurisdictions. Ultimately, assuming we can't reach any agreement, I mean, can they shove it down our throat?
Right, that's right.
I'm not sure the legality if we were to not accept any offer. What I could state is the DOT certainly has ways that they could not encourage us to do that by just choosing to rearrange their maintenance or things like that they could do. I'd also say, there wasn't a specific agreement put in place on this, but I will say the DOT did take the Northwest Bypass entirely on their own dollar. The city has not been involved in that project, other than a general agreement that this was intended to replace the segment of highway in town. So I know that there's not a specific agreement in place, but to me, it would be acting in bad faith to not have a serious discussion with them on taking this transfer after they took that on entirely on their own dollar.
Sean, I just have one question for context. You said that we had some things with Goddard Associates that weren't probably in with the DOT. I just kind of want like the difference between those, just so that way I know that, okay, well, we have an extra, I don't know, 2.1 in there.
Right.
That, again, probably should
How
never
are we
go to
gonna
the,
pay for
maybe,
this?
maybe not should never go to the DOT, but probably isn't, for them. So I can hear that number and go, okay, well, the number they got to was within,
Right, and trying to recall exactly what the 7.2 came out to per mile, but I believe the DOT's number was about 3 million per mile was what they had come up with on recent roadway projects that were within city
limits. Sean, if we were to come into some kind of an agreement with DOT, when would we need to, or when would we have to start replacing that road?
We certainly wouldn't need to do anything immediate. There's certainly problems with Market. I mean, there's things that we would like to do, but the way that actually currently in the CIP, in the 5 years out in 31, I have the kind of the first stage of the project planned, just tentatively, that if this were all come to pass, that's when I would start wanting to see construction. Because again, those are going to be complicated projects. They're going to have to coordinate a lot of different utilities, a lot of infrastructure that we would want to rebuild all at the same time. And we don't want to close Market entirely for the city limits. We're going to do it in multiple segments and over multiple years. So,
would those funds become restricted just for Market?
I don't believe any payment we receive from the DOT on this would have any specific restriction, but I would probably advise that we use them for this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, please.
It's a big road.
So the payment itself, would it be lump sum?
That would probably be something we'd need to continue to determine once we determine.
Okay, and where my mind goes with that is I'm thinking, okay, we receive a lump sum payment. The work is going to take place into the future. We could reasonably assume some inflation. And I know Pam does an outstanding job of investing our funds in zero risk investments, but likely those investments, inflation would not keep up with construction inflation. So I'm wondering if there's some sort of a, if we shouldn't have some sort of an escalator in there where we think this is going to take us 5 years to do, Therefore, the number we need from you is going to include a factor of anticipated inflation.
I like the way you're thinking, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I was totally on board.
I was going to say also, so this all takes into consideration the traffic of the street being reduced, and is there any change to how the street would be repaired regardless of the
So
traffic
if,
on
yeah, so if we reconstruct this road, there will be some design changes.
Yeah.
For one, we will make the road, the plan would be likely to make the road a little bit thinner. It would still be a 3-lane, the same configuration, but some of the excess space, pavement space that's off to the sides, that's not really enough to be a bike lane, but it's striped off. Probably we would eliminate some of that to just reduce the roadway width.
Like A Avenue, kind of like A Avenue, in a way.
Well, yeah, it would be similar to A Avenue. Again, we wouldn't be eliminating a lane or anything like that. It would just we would probably still plan it as a little bit more robust of a road than some of our other ones, just because even after it stops being a highway, it's still going to be a major thoroughfare for town. So it probably would be a little bit more intensive a design than some of our other roads, but probably not quite to the scale that the DOT would do it.
Okay.
Highway.
Because it was all concrete when I moved here.
So I'm just thinking, if I were sitting in the audience, one of the things that would enter my mind is, okay, we've talked about the infrastructure underneath the road as being something that's our problem. There's also infrastructure over the road. I'm thinking of a bridge, pedestrian bridge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Would that also be something that would fall into our consideration during that time?
So the pedestrian bridge is kind of it's a separate issue, but it is connected. I guess we do know that there's a need to do something with that pedestrian bridge in the near future. It's starting to see issues. We did have money allocated in the CIP at one time for reconstructing it. I don't know I think alternate funding for that was something that was considered. Probably at this point, given that the highway traffic is going to be reduced, I would kind of propose maybe eliminating that bridge and doing an at-grade crossing, possibly just putting in a traffic signal at William Penn into their parking and having it be a full stop intersection there or something along those lines. The specifics are something we'd have to look at, but probably if the highway traffic is going away, I would anticipate trying to eliminate that bridge unless it was something that William Penn felt strongly that they wanted to put funds to.
Okay.
We could partner with them.
So back to the gap between, we've got 7.2 million we came up with on our own, 3.92 that the DOT has thrown out.
Split the difference.
Well, I'm going to ask your opinion. Do you think it makes sense to, are there things that were identified in the study that we would say, well, maybe we could do without that, or time that out differently, or something along that line?
Yeah. So first I'll say I appreciate it being generous the way you presented, but the 7.2 and the offer that's currently on are not for the same segment of roadway. The 7.2 was actually only for the north half. So the difference there is a bit larger. I'll say the DOT's point of they're not really responsible for reconstructing the road. They're responsible for giving us something that's in good condition. And so, if you were to ask me, could we just do an asphalt overlay on Market north of Rosenberger and continue using it as is? I think that's an appropriate maintenance project for that road. I feel that same way about most of South Market. So for the DOT to say that no, they're not going to pay a reconstruction cost for those segments, whether or not we agree specifically, I think it's a reasonable thing for them to come to. The only reason that they're willing to even come to a reconstruction cost for the segment from B to Rosenberger is because of the issues with the stormwater that overlays have created, that there's not really a way to solve them with an overlay. We can't mill down because the base that they built it on is all failed. So the only way to go is up. And when you're in the county and you're building a highway next to farmland, you can stack as high as you want. We can't do that. So in order to fix that segment, we either have to do major reconstruction on all of the storm infrastructure in order to make it work, or just rebuild the whole road to be done with. And that's kind of why they came to that. So I do think it's reasonable for us to consider an offer where we're reconstructing that segment and taking them out for an overlay for the rest of them. I don't think that's what we should do in the long run because, again, I just think there's enough utility work, enough improvements underground that we need to make that aren't the DOT's responsibility, that I think just doing them and reconstructing the road in the process is a better overall project. But that's something we can plan on our own. So I guess the shorter answer is I do think that what the DOT is presenting us is reasonable. But if the council does want me to pursue negotiating additional amounts, I can. I don't know that I feel at this time they're going to be fruitful.
Yeah.
My gut's telling me, I mean, 4 million, I mean, based on what you just said is not unreasonable. It'd be nice to have a little more because, I mean, I'll always take more money, right? But I think with the inflationary impact and the uncertainty of timing, I think that plays into it. I think there are some of those things that you've identified that probably should be considered as part of this reconstruction that they're not. I mean, if it was instead of the 3.8, if it was closer to 5, something in that, but I don't want to say no to $4 million. I think that was your point too, Sean, is that I don't just want to bend over and say, yeah, whatever you say, but I don't want to be in a 10-year fight on, end up with the road full of potholes because we couldn't work together.
I guess the other thing I'd point out that the DOT could potentially try and do if they wanted to was they could do their R3 project. They could just come through, do their project the way that they normally do it, and then say, okay, it's a new road.
And then here you go.
And then they would know, according to the state code, there would be under no obligation to pay us. Now, whether we could come to an agreement on us taking it, I don't know what happens in that situation. But
would we be able to, in the situation such as that, would we be able to say, okay, let us tear up the infrastructure underneath first to get that right before you come in?
That kind of project wouldn't facilitate doing that.
Okay. Well, I just did some real back of the envelope type stuff. If we take the 3.92 million and add 5% inflation for 3 years, that comes to 4.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be comfortable with that based on the conversation we've had.
Okay, so I will take that. I will basically say that we would like inflation to be counted into the offer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to guess that the DOT will probably state that they would potentially do that up until the time when they made the payment, and then they would probably want, at that point, they're going to want to wash their hands of it.
Right.
And I don't know the timing of the payment, and the actual transfer of jurisdiction may not happen immediately when we approve this.
Right.
We won't actually gain ownership of the road until after the Northwest Arterial is fully finished.
Right.
But we will have to sign agreements that it's all in process ahead of time.
Yep.
So, I will bring up that 5% and
more reason to look.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
right.
real good golden opportunity to ask, what are they telling you as far as when somebody's going to cut the ribbon on that and let the semis through?
So some of what goes into this is not necessarily things that prevent them from opening the road, but I believe their time frame for us to take ownership was something like 2 years. But again, that may mean that the road is usable before that, just that some of the legalities of it aren't finished.
Right.
And obviously, whatever the DOT comes up with as their next offer will come before council, so you'll be able to consider it. But
Okay. That sounds good. Okay.
I'm just chuckling because I think I echo Sean's comments. Really good work. been working hard and you've
Yeah.
uncovered some things. And my chuckle is now, let's have you roll up your sleeves and get back in there.
Great way to reward you for all the work that you
Nice work.
So, okay, we talked that out. Now we can get to reports from city staff. City manager, anything?
Yes. Just wanted to mention, thank you for the communication preferences that you sent me. I think I need a few more.
I was gone, I'll get you.
Yep, I was away.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's really helpful. I really appreciate having that. And then, so thank you for sending that. And then just a reminder that we've got the joint school board city housing partnership meeting. That's next Tuesday.
Yep.
14th.
6 o'clock.
14th.
And that's over at their location.
Okay.
Joe, can you make it?
5 o'clock or 6 o'clock?
Joe, you gonna be there?
What was the date?
I'll be there.
Next Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Can you pick Joe up on the way?
That's all right.
I actually owe him a few rides to special.
That's all for me.
Okay. City clerk.
We will receive the preliminary analysis from MGT, who is doing our classification and compensation study on Thursday. So we look forward to their recommendations and thoughts.
Okay. City attorney.
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. City council members, Javin.
I just want to appreciate everybody that came out to the council meeting tonight. So that's, it's nice to have public show up as well. So, and other than that, also all the hard work that you've, all the Seans have been doing. And that's all.
Okay. Joe?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Andy?
I thought the square looked fantastic this past weekend, and just appreciate those efforts, and thank you.
Janet, how about you?
Wanted to say thank you guys for the awesome fireworks show and also for keeping us safe. And then want to echo what Andy said about the flags. And I know that the storm came through, but appreciate everybody helping out, getting the flags picked back up. Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to thank Mike Nardini for coming and giving us all an education and background on the airport project. Most of us weren't here when that project was started in 2012, so I think that was good for everybody to hear the background, that we're not just making decisions and have opinions based on what we may or may not have heard just the last year or 8 years or whatever, just to get that full picture, because I think it's important for us to understand that. And with that, again, going back to the training thing, Sean, thanks for doing that. I thought there was good stuff there. One of the things kind of stuck out to me was the personal bias, right? I mean, we all have our own opinions about things, and we've had opportunities through the years of discussing numerous issues that may not be our own personal preference, but we have codes and laws and all these other things that zoning and everything that we get to deal with and need to put ahead of ourselves. So, but thank you for organizing that.
Rhonda?
I just want to appreciate the people in the crowd tonight for coming out. I don't mind the emails and I don't mind the phone calls, and I get them weekly and monthly, and I love it. And I tell people, call me anytime. And I also want to thank the street guys. I was on call this weekend, and every time I called them and said, I can't get down this road because there was a tree, they come and pulled the tree off and opened the road back up, and then they came back a couple days later and cleaned up, and I know they had a lot of stuff to clean up, so I appreciate their work helping us out too on my end for my work.
I had the same call for EMA and streets and fire. There was a huge tree down in CF West or East.
Yeah, CF Avenue West.
Yeah, that I saw and went, oh my, and they got it cleared up within a couple hours, so excellent job there.
Yep, and dittoing all that as well. We had a very interesting weekend in Oskaloosa. Patriotic stuff happening, city band playing, and then chase it with a storm, and you get to see
Limbs down everywhere. Yeah.
many different things. So thank you, everyone, for being out tonight. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
We got a closed session.
Oh, close.
We're not done
yet.
Who scheduled that?
Okay, let's see here. So the closed session, it's a closed session under Iowa Code Section 21.5.J, discussing the purchase